All right. Well, hello and welcome to the first ever Buzzed Banter podcast. I'm your host, one of your hosts, Brandon Knight.
Joe Bella.
And this podcast is really two brother-in-laws drinking beers, discussing anything under the sun. You know, nothing's off limits. And, you know, everyone needs a place to talk. And I know that personally. You know, I held a lot of stuff in for a very long time, and it got me in a really bad place. And I feel like podcasts are almost kind of like a therapeutic kind of thing, you know?
I'm going to agree with you there. Yeah, it's a lot easier whenever you have a few beers in you. You're letting loose, take the edge off. Sometimes feelings come out, and on top of that, like just, you know, we bullshit and we laugh, and that's what that's what it's about.
Absolutely. Well, first off, we want to say we are drinking responsibly. We're not driving. So anybody out there watching this, listening to this, do not drink and drive. Be safe. You know, do everything that the beer companies tell you to drink responsibly. To that point, let's crack them open.
Let's crack them open. Salud, everybody.
Salud. Oh, that's a beautiful sound.
Goodness. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay, so this first episode.
First episode is a crazy one. You made me. You actually turned me on to this one, and I told you that I recognize this guy's name, Stephen Greer. If y'all don't know about it, so tell me how you turned me on to this, and then I'll tell you how I reacted to it.
Well, first of all, the big question of this episode is: are we alone? That's a big question going around the world right now. You know, there's so much what they're calling disclosure coming out, a lot of whistleblowers coming out, and you know, I've always been very interested in, you know, extraterrestrials, like life other than ourselves, like something bigger than us, more intelligent than us, and you know, I go down rabbit holes. I watch tons of videos, you know, some trying to debunk it, some saying, oh, yes, I've seen them, and everything along those lines. I came across, I was just, a few weeks ago, I was just looking up. I was like, oh, there's going to be this huge press conference. The National Press Club is holding this press conference on June 12th, Monday, June 12th, 2023. And it's Dr. Stephen Greer. Now, let me read here on the National Press Club website what this press conference is. So, Dr. Stephen Greer is the world's leading authority on the subject of UFOs and what they're now also calling UAPs, advanced energy and propulsion systems, and has gathered an extensive intelligence archive of compelling evidence on the subject of extraterrestrial intelligence and government projects that are being run illegally. Over the course of the past 30 years, he has provided briefings for sitting U.S. presidents, senior government officials across the globe, and has conducted countless media interviews and delivered hundreds of lectures. He has identified over 700 high-level government and corporate whistleblowers willing to testify regarding the UFO ET issue. He has authored 5 books and has produced 5 feature film documentaries that have been viewed by nearly 1 billion people. His latest film, The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It, was released on June 6, 2023. In this unprecedented event, Dr. Greer will be presenting extraordinary cases with live government whistleblower testimony, exposing the existence of the illegal secret government, the state of UFO/UAP disclosure in Washington, D.C., and more.
God, you read that so well. That was his work voice, in case any of you guys are wondering. But no, man, that
yeah, when I heard about this, and like I had heard of Stephen Greer before, and you know, there's so much misinformation out there. You watch things on Facebook, on TikTok, even the local news, and we only get a fraction of the truth, and even at that, it might be false truth. But this guy, Dr. Stephen Greer, an ex-emergency trauma doctor who's now retired, who spent,
34 years.
34 years
Doing this.
researching this, and he's the one briefing U.S. presidents and, heads of the CIA, and, it... how does an ex-doctor get into brief a president?
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. It's like you get a guy, becomes a doctor, 9 years into it, and then he retires. So I was reading up on the history. So 1 year after he is practicing, in the emergency room and everything, 1 year he sees his second UFO sighting. So that sighting, I think, blew his mind, and I think he saw one previously to that at 8 years old. But his second one, I guess, blew his mind, and from that he made it a point, because I think even into his practice, he started the CSETI, Center for Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, and then he did that for a little while. 9 years into his practice, he said, "You know what? I'm done doing this, going straight into this." And then shortly after that, he did the Disclosure Project, which is the big thing that was at the National Press Club. So yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's some of the stuff. For those who have seen the conference, it was live streamed on Monday, January 12th, and what I watched it live, and you always hear stories of people saying, "Oh, I saw UFOs," and in the past, a lot of us were led to believe, "Oh, these people are crazy. Don't believe them. They're hippies or on drugs," or whatever the case may be. There's always some extraneous factor or force telling us, "No, that's fake. It's fake. It's fake." But now we're starting to hear, like that whistleblower David Grush, who did that interview on TV. He's coming out saying, "Oh yeah, the U.S. government has had UFO technology that they've been reverse engineering for years. They even have alien extraterrestrial bodies that they recovered."
Yeah, that's man. If I want to believe so bad, but I mean, if that actually is the case, and they got that there, dude. Whoa.
Yeah, it's really hard to know what to believe. Because we've been fed so much shit for years.
Yep.
And, going back and watching videos of people saying, "Oh, yeah, I've seen UFOs," back then you might have thought, "Oh, crazy person." It's they're watching too much X-Files.
And, I mean, it's it's how the media, spins it. If you see a UFO, hell, even... military guys who have said, "Yeah, we see it, but we don't want to talk about it. Because if we do, then we're going to be labeled crazy. We might, get black flagged," or whatever they want to call it there in the military, where, hey, these guys aren't credible. They don't talk about it until now. Now they're coming out. Now they're actually saying, "Yes, report this, and we're gonna actually document this. It's credible." Before that, it was kind of like, "Well, no, you don't talk about this because, you're crazy if you do."
Yeah, and I think this is just the tip of the iceberg, because so far, even in the press conference, Dr. Greer talks about, we have so many whistleblowers who are so afraid to come forward because they fear for their lives, because people have lost their lives from what they say.
Yeah, and I can't even imagine. Can you imagine that? Say you're a janitor, right? You're, Juan Martinez.
Yeah, you're
there,
just
you're sweeping.
"Oh yeah, I'm just sweeping.
You're just sweeping.
The floors are Area 51, man."
You see a fucking monolith over here floating, right? You don't understand why. You don't ask questions. But, I mean, shit, dude, you got to keep your job.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, man. So the first thing that Dr. Greer talked about, he kind of gave an outline. And if you haven't watched this, folks, please, watch it if you can. It's a long one.
Yeah, it is 3 hours. It is long.
It is long.
But the biggest from the first, I want to say, 20 to 30 minutes, Dr. Greer says the biggest bombshell is that the U.S. government does have this technology. They've been reverse engineering it for a long time, and a lot of what is being seen in the skies is man-made.
Which is, that blows my mind. It makes sense. It blows my mind, but it makes sense. And what he's saying is like it's going back to like late 1940s. Basically, after the whole Roswell incident, this whole thing started from that point. So, I mean, just to kind of give you guys an idea of how long this has been happening, we're talking, what is it, 70, 80, almost 80 years now?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And what's crazy is like, I've thought about, if these aliens are so far more advanced than us, how is it that like they have these ships that can do things that we can't even fathom? How are they crashing on Earth? And Dr. Greer kind of covers that where, a long time ago, maybe in the 40s, 50s, 60s, there was a ship that did malfunction. It did crash. It either crashed or it was given to the U.S. government.
Yeah, I think some people said that, or it might have been him, but I guess whenever they were, exploring possibly, Earth, the storms or whatever, maybe they didn't have shielding for those storms or whatever, so that possibly, downed one. But I guess supposedly also our radar system also does something to them too. I'm not sure, but anyways.
Well, that's one thing he touches on is scalar technology.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that this technology that they've kind of reverse engineered from that initial crash or gift or whatever you want to call it, whatever it was, there's this quote unquote shadow government that has been established, that has been running this operation illegally.
Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, they're the Men in Black, literally. They're the real Men in Black.
Mm-hmm.
But they have this technology that can, track ships at light speed, beyond light speed, and even bring them down. And that's why there are so many of these the actual extraterrestrial vehicles that are being brought down is because they're tracking them and they're bringing them down.
Yep, and I think he mentioned the number. It was like 121, and I guess there was even another one while they were even talking about it.
Yeah, so it brought it up to 122.
Yeah, that they know about.
And then, he lists out. Let me see if I can bring up the actual number here.
And while you're bringing that up, I just wanted to say, ever since I've seen Dr. Greer, this dude's jacked. I feel like he can bench at least 315 a good solid 5 times, at least.
Okay, so this is what the Disclosure Project, what their intelligence archive contains. Point 1, government documents from the United States, Canada, Australia, Russia, UK, and more. Point 2, 145 top secret facilities and bases.
That means around the world, there's 145 places that we don't know about
that have this technology.
Have this shit. Yeah, it's crazy.
The next point is 752 witnesses from military, corporate, and government sources. So this isn't Joe Blow creating a TikTok like, oh, I saw a UFO last night. It's people. I mean, they still could be those people, but they're people that have enlisted, that have dedicated their lives to protect this country and its ideals. And, the Constitution is supposed to protect us citizens, and what this quote-unquote shadow government is doing is completely illegal. It's being held off from the actual U.S. government.
Yeah,
U.S. presidents don't know about
Yeah,
this.
it's basically stuff outside the realm of what we have, or even, top guys, the president included, even though our current president, isn't privy to a lot of stuff, but regardless, any president he or she will not have any type of access to what these shadow governments have available to them. It's a total black budget. It's a total underground stuff. I mean, only certain people have access to it. It's scary.
I mean, it's not even black budget. It's like some of our tax dollars are going to this, and the U.S. government doesn't know like where this money is being spent.
Not only that, and they mentioned this too. It's like the shit about what do you call it? You got drug money, you got all this confiscated money from criminal activity or whatever. All that money, they're saying a part of that is going towards this black budget. So I mean, you wonder, where does all that money get seized and what happens to it? That's what happens to it.
Yeah, and it's Dr. Greer brings up, I believe it was Eisenhower, where his final statement as a president was, "Beware the military-industrial complex." Yep. And this is exactly what he was talking about, is what he says.
And what's crazy is like now, I mean, it's not just the military and just the military. It's military and then whoever else can fund, any type of project. So, I mean, we might be going into a different podcast for this, but I mean, we're talking about pharma possibly. Who knows? That's
big medicine, oil, the stuff that he talks about, the technology that he talks about could change our world in 24 hours. Yep. Like, imagine that it's a technology called 0-point energy, which would essentially mean free energy for everyone across the world. Yep. And just think of just that change, what that would do to the world.
Dude, I could golf like at least 3 times a week if I had that, extra money, and not pay electricity. God, dog.
Yeah, I mean, I would turn my AC down to 50.
Yeah. I was like, I don't care. Like, it's free. I don't care. We got 0-point energy right now. It's cool. But
you know what's crazy about that is I actually saw, to that point, Dr. Greer, he has a new documentary called The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. And it deals with exactly this and how patents have been confiscated. Whenever someone has registered a patent for a 0-point energy transformer or whatever you want to call it, it's been confiscated or just put on a shelf. And there's a separate department within the patent office just for energy-related
it's
technologies.
There's people that work for the patent office that have ties to, I think anything dealing with energy, like they set it aside, and it's a little fucked up because like you're thinking, okay, I got an idea. You're working in a basement, right? You're 45 years old. You don't got nothing to do. You're working on a project. Hey, I figured out a way to save on gas to where, hey, we don't have to plug into electricity. We don't have to use gas. We don't have to use water or nothing. I have this. And then you turn it in and all of a sudden they confiscate it.
Yeah. What's crazy about that is like just the other day I saw, it's TikTok, so take it with a grain of salt. I saw this video of this guy was talking about this company, and I believe it's in Italy. They're inviting anybody, any influencer, anybody that will promote this. They're inviting them to Italy, and they're going to do a demonstration of this car that is using 0-point energy.
Holy shit.
They're going to put it on a track, and they're going to show the battery level at the beginning. They're going to go for, miles and miles and miles and miles, and they're going to show that the battery is not moved. Now, if all of this that we're talking about now, the 0-point energy being confiscated and everything, now it's not a U.S. sanctioned thing, so what's going to happen? Is something going to happen to these people? Because if you do watch that documentary, you'll see that a lot of these inventions, the people that have come up with them, they're either dead because they've possibly been killed, their families have been threatened. We've never heard of this technology because it was just put on the shelf.
These guys are going to get sent to an island, and we're never going to hear from them ever again.
Possibly. Possibly, because like it'll disrupt a $1 trillion business. Like the oil business, they have their hands in everything.
Dude, everything.
Everything.
I mean, hell, even like you think, if there was a 0 point energy and you didn't pay shit for anything here at the house, right? You can run your AC at 50. Dude, what happens to the electric company here? Bye-bye. See you later. I mean,
That's also going to lend itself to flying cars,
yeah, flying cars.
which paved roads, no longer have a need for them.
I'm just like, okay, on that note, though, here's what I was thinking about, too. Say, for example, everything is cool. Everything, like, best case scenario, we get 0 point energy. You know, everything is cheap. What happens to the guys at work? And, you know, the guys and gals that work at the company, what happens to them?
I mean, it's just like any other industry that fails. They have to adapt. They have to move forward. You know, that as a human species, take 2020 for example. It was a huge change for everyone.
What are you talking about? What happened in 2020?
Shut up. But it was a huge disrupt to the economy, to everyday life, and people adapted. You know, some for the better, some for the worse.
Yeah.
I can attest that at the beginning it was one of the darkest times. It was a time when I was going to kill myself.
Yeah, you were in L.A. You were
Yeah.
in L.A. You were by yourself.
It was actually the first time when I was living here, I was living with family. You know, I was always around somebody, and for the majority of my time in LA, I was living with roommates. But at this point in time, when the pandemic hit, I was by myself, and it was the first time in my life that I had ever been left alone to my own thoughts.
Yeah.
And it consumed me, and it got to be so much that I couldn't take it, and I did eventually, you know, let some of that out and talk to somebody about it. And it definitely helps. It helps talking to people. So if you're feeling depressed or anything, talk to somebody. Just it's not healthy to keep it all in, because it's just going to eat away at you, and just please talk to somebody. But even to that end, like this stuff, extraneous thoughts or something bigger than myself almost helps me even more, because it makes me think, you know, and for a lot of people that might be religion, it might be God, but believing in something bigger than yourself, it helps you to alleviate the here and now. Because like when you think about, at least for me, when I think about the universe and how small we are within that universe, it helps me to think my problems aren't as bad as I might think they are. Like in the moment, it is hard to decipher that, yes, like I know this is happening to me right now, and it feels like the worst thing that's happening to me or has ever happened to me. But when you think about it in the big picture, which I know is hard to do, but when you think about it in the big picture, it's a drop in the ocean.
Totally.
And that's why I feel like I'm in such a big or better place now. You know, I've gotten into meditation. I've gotten into trying to expand my consciousness, especially with everything that's going on now. You know, I feel like being more than yourself or thinking more than yourself can help you in those constraining, depressive moments.
Yeah.
Because like when you are depressed, it feels like you're alone. There's nothing there, and like, but like that nothingness is just holding you down, and you don't want to do anything. You don't want to feel anything, and it sucks.
Yeah.
It
And I
fucking sucks.
know I can tell you, hey, I'm here, but it feels different whenever it's happening to you. Like people can say that, you know, hey, I'm here for you or whatever. It's just, I mean, I can't say I know what you're going through, but I mean, I kind of empathize, you know, with what you're saying. But yeah, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad that we got to do this. We get to do this. I'm glad that we've had moments. I'm glad that we get to bullshit with one another. And I think you missed it, when you were over there. So yeah, man. I mean, I'm glad we're doing this. I love you, and yeah, let's keep going.
Yeah. So back to the subject. I got off on a little tangent there. So that the point I was getting to is, that 0 point energy would be such a disruption to a big part of the economy and the pockets of a lot of very rich people. And what I think is like that shadow government is being run by those rich people.
I think, yeah, possibly there could be.
Because like, why do you think that those private sector companies who have this technology, because it's not only the U.S. government that has this technology, or parts of the U.S. government.
I said we have most of it, but
they offload this to private sector companies, Lockheed Martin. What's the one that Leticia works for?
Oh, Raytheon?
Raytheon, which there's a whistleblower here on the press conference that talks about something that is mind-blowing. Which, if it's true, holy shit.
Yeah, holy shit is an understatement because, what that guy said, what was that dude's name? I got it right here on my notes. Raytheon. Yeah, Eric Hecker.
Eric Hecker, yeah.
Yeah, this guy, I mean, if you want to talk about him already?
Yeah, let's jump into it.
So this dude, he worked as a contractor for Raytheon, and he said in this press conference
in the South Pole, right?
South Pole, yep, South Pole. There's these I don't know how to even explain it, but he called them these neutrino like facilities or whatever. But these things were kind of what Brandon was talking about, where it's the capability of tracking objects that move faster than light, gives us the ability to communicate information faster than light. And in the process of doing all this, I don't know what year it was whenever New Zealand had that earthquake.
That was in, what was it? It was Christchurch.
Yeah, Christchurch, yep.
Let me look that
So
up.
if anyone looks that up, like this dude is saying that these facilities down in the South Pole not only can do all this, but they did something, and as soon as they did that, earthquake. And they later found out. I mean, they're claiming. I'm not saying they actually this is what happened, but they're claiming that this is what actually caused the earthquake down there in Christchurch. So, yeah, it's
an earthquake producing weapon of mass destruction.
Weapon, and this is the outcome of these downed UFOs reverse engineering and creating this. So we're not just doing this for communication, that's great, tracking, that's great, but weaponizing, I mean that's kind of fucked up.
Yeah, it's a whole nother thing.
Yep.
Yeah, and those neutrinos he was talking about, like there's an image that they show, and like on the surface in the South Pole is a facility. It looks like a normal facility, but they show an underground depiction of, hundreds of what looks like little balls. And he was saying that they emit so much energy, like per ball, that the only way they could be run was by nuclear energy, which is illegal, or by some other energy that they've developed that is getting by the accords or whatever you want to say that is not illegal. So it's technically not illegal.
And I think there's a lot of men that have neutrino balls that have tons of kids.
Nick Cannon?
Nick Cannon has neutrino balls. Yeah, he has the Raytheon contractor should visit him. But yeah, that I mean, having that's just crazy thinking that you have that ability. Like if I'm the president or whatever, and I know I have that, which we don't. He probably does not know we have that.
No, no.
Until he watches that press conference. But I mean, if we knew we had that, and we could do that to anybody we wanted or any place that we wanted, dude, that's scary.
Yeah.
And if other people, get a hold of that, dude.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Like I said at the beginning, it's hard to fathom because like a lot of this stuff it seems unbelievable. And some of the stories that some of the whistleblowers are saying in this press conference seem unbelievable. And it makes me think, why now? And it brings me to my next point of, Dr. Greer, he gets asked a few questions in this press conference. Mm-hmm. And he says he doesn't disclose a whole lot yet. But he says there's a time clock.
Yeah, that's what got me. It's like, what's with the time clock? Was it 2035 or 2040? Or no?
No. It's even sooner than that.
Oh, you're saying
2025, 2026.
You're saying the 6 to or 9 to 12 months or something?
Yeah, so he says within this here locally, it needs to be resolved within the next 6 months to a year. And beyond us, beyond here, it will not be allowed to go further than 2026.
Yeah. And I remember hearing 2026. I remember also hearing 2035, 2040. I don't know what those years, maybe, I don't know, man. Like, I'm just wondering, because I know he mentioned something, and this is something that, like, I don't know, you and I may disagree on this, but he says, all these extraterrestrials are non-hostile,
mm-hmm.
right? And I want to believe that, right? But I'm just thinking, like, I mean, I know they're probably, millions or billions of years ahead of us. There's no need to be what we call violent, but at the same time, I mean, they may not have a word for, elimination. If I'm somebody and I'm trying to communicate and just observing, something, they'll say an anthill or whatever, and these guys just keep shooting down my guys, right? After a certain point, I'm gonna be like, hey, you shot down 122 of my guys. This is your last chance.
And that's something that Dr. Greer talks about is they are non-hostile.
Right.
And they have been watching us for a very long time. Mm-hmm. And, common sense says, like you said, these beings are exponentially more intelligent than us. Their technology is far beyond what we can fathom. In a second, they could end us if they wanted
They
to.
could.
So why haven't they?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, and I thought about that too. I did think about that too.
But he also goes on to say that there is a universal concept of self-preservation. Mm-hmm. And as human beings, we've almost destroyed an Earth. We created an atom bomb that, not only kills the people on impact, but spreads radiation that kills the Earth around it. Yeah. And so, like, why we were allowed to do that. But they have also supposedly gone to nuclear bases and disarmed the.
Yeah, I think
nukes.
It's one of those things where, like, if you're your dad or uncle, you're watching some kids, and once it gets out of hand, you're like, hey, stop that. It's kind of one of those things like, hey, I'm gonna watch you guys. Quit! You're gonna poke somebody's eye out. One of them things. They were playing with Legos, and all of a sudden now they're throwing baseballs at their faces and stuff. It's a different story, and I think that's what they're doing. they've observed us, while we were, not really messing with nuclear weapons, and all of a sudden now that we're doing that, they're like, hey.
But even beyond that, the reverse engineering of their crafts, here this quote unquote shadow government is advancing their technology to where it could be a potential danger to species beyond us.
That's true.
And from what they say, there is a galactic federation, which excites me.
It does excite me. I start thinking about like Star Wars and stuff, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, goddamn.
But like you got to think of this galactic federation as, if they are non-hostile, they're protecting galaxies and universes, and we're most worried about ourselves. What the hell is that?
I don't know. That sounded weird. But yeah, so I wonder, in this galactic federation, how many would you call it systems, planets? What do you think?
I don't know. Like, from what I've heard, like, there are multiple species of extraterrestrials. Like, you have the Greys, which are what most of us see pictures of. They have the big heads. They're small, slender bodies, big black almond eyes. I've also heard of the tall whites.
The tall whites
that almost kind of look Norwegian.
I have a friend who's a tall white. He's Norwegian blood too. It's crazy.
I mean, maybe he's not telling you everything.
I play golf with him every now and again too. So.
He's definitely come into your room and probed you.
Oh shit.
But
you know who you are.
So you have the Greys, you have the tall whites, you have, I don't know the technical name, but they refer to them as lizard people.
The lizard people. Yeah, I've heard of. Dude, there's so much on the lizard people, the reptilian race. Mm-hmm. There's some that believe, and this is far-fetched. I mean, this is not what Dr. Greer talked about. Just so y'all know, this is just off-putting stuff. But like, what is it, Hollow Earth, that they live in Hollow Earth?
They're here on Earth.
Yeah, there's another theory that they're in the moon. The moon's a hollow base or a hollow spaceship, and they live in there.
I want to talk about.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It could be, but I don't know if they're lizard people.
So speaking about the moon, there are a lot of theories out there about the moon landing being fake.
Yeah. MythBusters, just to give a quick shout out, they tried doing this, I think, in one of their studios there in California, and they did a great fucking job replicating, what it actually looked like. So
there's this interview. I can't say if it's real or fake. We're in the age of AI and things can be duplicated. So do your research on this, but there's an interview with Stanley Kubrick, the director of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Okay. One of, regarded as one of the best films ever. Yeah. There's an interview where he talks about he filmed the moon landing.
In Burbank, California? In Burbank?
And he says he was pissed at Buzz Aldrin because he fucked up his line.
He fucked it up. Fucking Buzz.
Like he was supposed to say that line different, and he was so mad.
God damn it.
Now, I don't know if that's true or not, so take it with a huge grain of salt. Do your own research.
I honestly think we landed on the moon. I really do. I think we got there. Here's what scared me is the interview of the astronauts after they came back. Dude, they looked like scared. They looked like they saw some shit or they were worried about some shit. But they weren't like, hey man, we landed on the moon. I'm so excited. Like it's a great thing for the world. It's a great thing for America.
Well, just to play devil's advocate, do you think they could have been scared because they were on this fake set and they were told if you do not go along with this, you and your family will be harmed.
Dude, yeah, you know what? If you put it that way, yes. I would
Because there are theories out there that say that is true as well.
if that scenario happened, if you're saying that, hey, you know we didn't land on the moon, bitch, so fucking don't say anything. We're gonna kill you. Or probe you or do something weird to you. Then yeah, I can believe that. Or that's one theory, or we can say they did land on the moon and they saw some crazy shit.
True.
And they're worried about what's going to happen next. Because, I mean, yeah, if we didn't land on the moon, because how many missions are there? Apollo 11, Apollo 12, Apollo 13 didn't go there. So we had at least 11, 12 for sure. And, I mean, grant me, I'm not a wizard here. I'm not a historical guy when it comes to this. But at least 2 missions were successful in terms of historical, accounts that we landed on the moon. We got there. Do we believe? I mean, Apollo 11, you're saying didn't happen, or possibly didn't happen. Apollo 12 didn't happen either.
Look, I'm not saying yes or no. I'm just presenting the idea.
Okay, all right.
I feel like as human beings we need to question everything. Don't believe everything that you hear or watch.
I forgot which one it was though. It was one of the Apollo missions, but they did drop something. And this is we could make this for a different episode, but whenever they dropped this thing from their ship, it vibrated the moon for like an hour. On a later mission, they dropped something heavier, vibrated the moon for 3 hours, which comes into the whole hollow moon theory possibility. Anyways, we went on a tangent there about the moon. Sorry about that. But yeah, back to Dr. Stephen Greer.
Yes, back to the press conference. Let's go into some more of these whistleblowers that were presented. One I wanted to talk about. Do you have the name of Herrera? Was his last name?
Yeah, it was. Let me see here. Let's see. We have Stephen Dignan.
Michael Herrera.
Yes, Marine. Yeah, this dude. This happened in the Philippines back in 2009, I believe, is what he said. And
yeah, they were on a humanitarian mission. They were going to deliver, fresh water, just kind of aid, because there was a regime kind of trying to take hold. Correct?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I think that's something to do with it. But the main thing that he was talking about was he did witness, what he stated was a UFO rotating. So they kind of they went to that area, and when he got there were some dudes that were dressed in all black. They didn't have FBI or CIA or Marines or anything like that.
Yeah, they had military gear, like military fatigues, all black, but no markings, like no U.S. Marines, Air Force, no markings whatsoever.
Nope.
But they had American accents. They had American weapons.
Yeah, these dudes were American, and on top of that, these dudes had better tech.
Yeah.
Than what?
Yeah, he mentions they had a cell phone, but equivalent to what we have now.
Yeah,
in 2023, and this was years ago.
Yeah, this was 2009. So I mean, what was it? iPhone came out like in 2005, 2004, around there.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, I would say that most people probably didn't have it because it was kind of expensive at that point. But at the same time, I mean, Michael mentioned something about, they didn't have this right here. They didn't have it on them, but these guys did. They took pictures of, I think, Michael Herrera and I think his guys. He said that they told him to, back off or something, or we'll kill you or something like that. They threatened him. Yeah, I know that. And then I think whenever they sent him away, they sent him away in a way where they couldn't engage, their
Yeah, well, before that, so he kind of describes the craft.
yeah.
So before those men told them to turn away from the craft, he noticed that there's this kind of circular craft hovering above the ground, above this platform, and he describes there's this kind of compartment on the side that seemed like it was airlocked and what could have been used to transport something. What he thought at the time might have been drugs, but from what he says from another whistleblower that came forward but was not ready to be revealed, was used to traffic human beings.
Yeah.
Which is it's crazy. Like,
okay, wait. Was this the one? Did these containers? They weren't floating, right? They were normal.
No, what he was talking about was the ship that was floating, but there were this
containers.
Compartment on it that kind of opened up, but it was like sealed.
Okay.
But it was a part of that floating ship. And then he goes on to say that the platform and the ship, they both rise up, and one lowers down, one rises up to meet each other, and they connect and become one solid, spacecraft or craft. And then it floats up, and as soon as it gets on top of the tree line, it just darts to the left towards the ocean, and within like 2 seconds is gone. Like, nothing that is in the air now that we know of can do that.
Yeah, and just to kind of give you guys like a background on this guy. This dude's a Marine, Michael Herrera. Like, when you see him, if you get a chance to see the what do you call it, the press conference, he, you can kind of, I mean, sadly, I know you shouldn't make a judgment call based on how people look and how people act, but at the same time, you can kind of see this guy. I mean, almost the whole panel. I mean, these guys are like, if you were to see them, you'd be like, this is a legit person. Like, there's nothing in his demeanor, there's nothing in the way he talked, there's nothing in the way he acted that would make you think this is bullshit.
Yeah.
That's what got me, is like, whenever, like, you can kind of tell when dudes are making stuff up, or this is scripted, or it's for, these guys aren't being paid for any of it. They're just they're coming out because they want their stories known. That's what got me, is like, man, this guy is like genuine.
Yeah, not only that, is like they're not being paid, but they're potentially putting their lives at risk.
Dude, yeah.
Because like if it is true that people are being killed to cover a lot of this stuff up, coming forward and telling what could potentially get you killed or your family killed.
Yeah, so if you don't see us tomorrow, that's what happened. Hopefully you do, because I gotta golf tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, that guy's story, and then, like you said, like, once all that happened, the way they sent him away, I think he made a story about, or he stated that whenever he left, he got debriefed by somebody that he did not recognize with the Air Force. But it was somebody that didn't have any Air Force insignia or whatever.
Yeah, and he asked him who he was, and he would not answer him. And not only that, is so he had a camera with him that got confiscated. When he returned to his barracks, it was tossed. Like, there was stuff missing. Everyone in his platoon, all of their cell phones, even though they didn't have them on the mission with them, were taken and not given back. And so it's like, what? Who is controlling what is going on? Like, somebody within that realm of the Marines knew something was going on. They would not let them talk about it. They confiscated their gear, their personal items. And he even wrote a letter to one of his platoon, and they show the response letter from this other Marine, and he said, "Look, this is not worth my life.
Yeah, it's not worth my life.
Do not contact me about this again. And like it was very straightforward. It's like, no, I'm not getting involved with this.
Yeah.
It was almost to the extent it was like, look, I didn't see what I saw.
Yeah, and I didn't serve in the military. I think both of us have friends that might have served in the military, and I mean I can kind of see that response. Like, yeah, totally. I can understand that.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't want to put my family in danger. I wouldn't want to put my financial, future in danger. I mean, these guys. One of the things Dr. Stephen Greer talks about is amnesty and trying to figure out a way to pass a bill to allow people to come out, and receive, full, you know, amnesty so that they don't get in trouble. And not only that, but almost like a witness protection program. That way they're safe. Uh, Shit, even that's. I saw a racer dude with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I mean, they go to WITSEC, dude, and they're still located. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's what these guys are doing. Maybe that's, I don't know. But I'm just saying that's still scary, because even if if I'm in the military, I come out, I leave somewhere, I go to Hawaii or wherever they locate me, I'm still gonna be scared.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna be on a.
Yeah, it becomes a life of living, looking over your shoulder,
exactly.
and like that's not a life to live.
Exactly.
It's like you can't be yourself. Like you literally can't be yourself. They give you a new identity. It would be horrible.
Yeah, it's bad. So yeah, that was Michael Herrera. Herrera. I mean, him amongst all the others are pretty intense, testimonies, and this is like what I think during the press conference. There's more information if you actually click, I think, on the link or whatever to get more information on what their actual testimonies are.
Yeah, apparently there's documents that redacted documents of whistleblowers that have come out, which they say there are 122 of them with testimonies. A lot of them have their names and what happened, what they witnessed. A lot of the document is black because these whistleblowers are so afraid for their lives, for their families' lives, for what they know and what they've seen. But from what I hear, within the next 6 months, like all of this information that the archives that the Disclosure Project has, was that week of June 12th was handed to Congress.
Yeah.
And so the U.S. government now has all of that information from the past 30 years.
Yeah, so
40 years.
What they do with it, though, now, I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, and what Dr. Greer, he lays out in the conference,
I'm going to take a timeout. You can keep going.
So what he hopes will happen immediately is for them to put an end to this shadow government. They are putting together a RICO case to indict everyone involved in this quote-unquote shadow government. And then from there, for them to release, at the very least, the zero-point energy technology to the world, which would revolutionize the entire world within, days to months. It would solve poverty. It would solve, the economy, the energy crisis. Like, it would change our world for the better. And that's a lot of what Dr. Greer's The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It covers. There are a lot of these technologies that have been, confiscated by the patent office, because there is this separate department of the patent office that deals with energy technologies, and it has to go through them. And if there's anything that might disrupt, their overlords, then they put it away. They sometimes put away the inventors, which is a nice way to say that they murder them. Now that's allegedly. I can't say anything for sure. I I don't know. I don't have all the facts. I wish I did. I wish I knew the truths of the universe. I'm actively trying to pursue those. I actively participate in meditation. I'm trying to expand my consciousness. I actually got my hands on the Gateway Experience tapes. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's the CIA back in, I believe, the 60s or 70s. No, maybe the 80s, 1983, if I believe right. The CIA were conducting experiments using frequencies to induce kind of an astral projection state. And I've gotten my hands on those tapes, and I've been experimenting with those. And because I'm infinitely curious of things other than myself. One of the mantras that you talk about, that you say to yourself in the Gateway Experience, is, I am more than my physical body. Because I am more than physical matter, I want to know, I want to learn, I want to use the knowledge of the universe. I want the help and the guidance of anybody that has more knowledge than me to help me and those around me to expand ourselves.
Dude, there's definitely untapped resources out there that we have not even, began to understand.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, I know you're pursuing that. I mean, I saw a little bit about, the Gateway process. I mean, dude, if that's possible, I mean, it's gonna open up, so many possibilities, so many, I don't know, like so many, if you can get so many people to, get on the same wavelength, and, I don't know, try to understand, yourself and understand, the stuff that's going on around you. I don't know. I mean, it might help people just to, deal with, everyday bullshit or, just life in general. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we deal with is like, trying to figure out, what's ahead of us, why stuff happened. We keep replaying, scenarios in our heads, on what should have been and what could have been. And, maybe this, I don't know, maybe this gives us a break, from that.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much more to get into on this topic, but I think for the sake of time, we're running pretty long here. We're almost at an hour, so I think we're gonna have to make a part 2.
Maybe
this is a huge topic.
It is.
It's because we haven't even touched everything that was discussed in the Disclosure Project press conference.
Nope, we haven't.
But it's been a pleasure talking about this. I love this kind of stuff. Like I said, I'm infinitely curious about, everything beyond ourselves, or expanding our consciousness. And so on that, I say cheers to the conversation.
Cheers.
Let's keep it going. Cheers to you.
Cheers to you guys. Salud.
We'll see you next time.
Yeah, we'll see you.